Good morning, welcome to Margee Morning. In today's session of Margee Morning, we will discuss various national and regional newspapers and its linkages with UPSC syllabus and question paper. First, we will discuss the Hindu. I am discussing or referring to the Mumbai edition of the Hindu. On the first page of the Hindu, there is one small news article which is related to breakfast in a school plan faces delay. Though a small news article, it is very important from our GS2 perspective, that is syllabus topic poverty and hunger. What is the issue or what is the context of the news is that Parliamentary Standing Committee on Education has recommended that all government schools start providing free breakfast in the coming academic year as a part of expansion of midday meal scheme. You must be aware that in a midday meal scheme, lunch is provided to the school children. So the parliamentary committee has recommended that government should also provide breakfast to the school going student. Referring to the question was asked in 2013 in mains that concept of midday meal scheme is almost a century old in India, with early beginning in the Madras presidency in a pre-independent India. The scheme has again been given impetus in most states in the last 2 decades. Critically examine its twin objectives, latest mandate and success. So UPSC has asked question from the point of view of history of midday meal scheme, its current twin mandates, its objectives. So if you are not aware of the midday meal scheme history, you should revisit it and see what is the history of midday meal scheme. The next article is decide on granting license to anti-TB drugs. SC have given direction to the center. The news is related to current events which are asked in prelims and health of GS2. From the prelim point of view, UPSC can ask name of two drugs and ask you they are related to what. Though anti-TB drugs are mentioned in news are bedaquiline and delamanide. So you must be aware of these two drugs names. They can be asked in a prelim. You must be aware that government's strategy related to TB, that is DOT strategy. Full form of that is directly observed treatment short term. So in prelim they can ask DOT strategy is related to which health diseases. You must be aware that annual TB report 2020 is released by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Annual TB report 2020. So that statistics, as a TB is a very important aspect of our health related challenges, you must note down the important stats related to that report. Government has set target to eliminate TB by 2025. World Health Organization's target at international level is to eliminate TB by 2030. So India has taken a proactive step and decided to eliminate it 5 years before the actual World Health Organization's targets. In 2012, there was a question, what do you understand by the term multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, MDR-TB? Then what measures would you advocate for its containment and what are the implications of its spread in the community? In 2019 prelim, there was also question related to drug resistance. So you must note down the various reasons for drug resistance. Specifically in context of tuberculosis, must be aware of the what is multi-drug resistance TB and why these two drugs, bedaquiline and delamanide, are important in present context. Moving further, there was news on editorial page, article per se, diagnosing gestational diabetes. It is very important from the GS2 health point of view and GS1 woman related point of view. There are various important data as well as various terms that you must be aware of from the prelim point of view as well as mains point of view. One important stats which we get from this news article is that diabetes is a major health problem in India with 7 crore patients currently. Also it states that there are 3.5 crore people with pre-diabetics. So what are the pre-diabetics patients or pre-diabetic persons? Those persons that are having blood sugar level normal, higher than the normal, but not that much that we can call they have diabetes type 2. I again repeat, pre-diabetes is a condition where blood sugar are higher than the normal but not high enough yet to be diagnosed as a type 2 diabetes. So we must be aware of what is exactly the type 2 and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is a condition in which your immune system destroy your insulin producing cells that are present in the pancreas. So one question that UPSC can directly ask is, where exactly insulin producing cells are present in the pancreas? Insulin producing cells are present in which organs? So answer will be pancreas. So what happens in type 1 diabetes is that your immune system destroys your insulin making cells. This condition is usually diagnosed in the early age, that is in children's, young age patients. So it is also known as juvenile diabetes. So type 1 diabetes is also known as juvenile diabetes. There is also secondary diabetes like diabetes type 1. In this condition also insulin making cells are destroyed, but not due to your immune system, but because of some other diseases or due to some other conditions, such as if you there is injury to your pancreas. So what is difference between type 1 and secondary diabetes is that in type 1 your immune system is responsible for destroying your insulin producing cells, and in secondary diabetes there is some other reasons for that. Then what is type 2 diabetes? In such condition body produce the insulin, but your body become resistant to insulin, so that insulin is not utilized which is produced by your body. Such condition is usually observed in a later age of the life, so it is also known as adult onset diabetes. The first type 1 diabetes, we have seen that it is juvenile diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is adult onset diabetes. It is mostly related with lifestyle disorders. Then the article is about gestational diabetes. So what is the gestational diabetes? That is, in pregnancy woman is undergoing diabetogenetic trace. In pregnancy what woman is undergoing? Diabetogenetic trace. Due to the various conditions that are there in pregnancy, woman may be develop transitory diabetes that may result in a later life in type 2 diabetes. So that is a severe and major health related problem in South Asia and especially in India also. The article states that almost half of the women with gestational diabetes go on to develop type 2 diabetes within 10 years. So that is a very serious issue. From prelim point of view, we must ask whether there are some kind of national guidelines or some program is there for such kind of gestational diabetes. So there is a national guidelines and diagnosis and management of gestational diabetes by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. National guidelines are present for that. Then there is article in Indian Hindu, case for revamped need-based PDS, public distribution system. This article is important from your mains point of view. There is a direct syllabus point in GS3, issues related to public distribution system. So you must visit this article and note down important point from the main point of view. There is nothing from the prelim point of view in that article. Then there is editorial named Environmental Protection and Conservation. News is Regulation Redux, which is related to your GS3 syllabus point, Environmental Protection and Conservation and Environmental Impact Assessment. Supreme Court has directed Center to set up a national environmental regulator under the Environmental Protection Act 1986, but several government have neglected that recommendation by Supreme Court. There is also mention of Environment Impact Assessment Draft Notification 2020. So you must be aware of what changes exactly government have done in this notification and what are the issues raised by the various strata of the society. In 2020 means there was a question, how does the draft EIA notification 2020 differ from the existing EIA notification 2006? So if you are not aware of the current happening regarding that, you must visit that and see what changes exactly government had done. In 2014 also, there was a question related to environmental impact assessment, that EIA studies are increasingly undertaken before a project is cleared by government. Discuss the environmental impact of coal-fired thermal plant located off coal pit heads. So, as the environmental protection assessment EIA is specifically mentioned in GS3 syllabus, you must make a comprehensive note on that topic. Moving further, there is a news: work on a floating solar power plant in a final stage. Work on a floating solar power plant in a final stage. This news we can relate to GS3 energy. From the prelim point of view, there is one significant bit in that news item, that is country's biggest floating solar power till date by generation capacity is being developed at Telangana, specifically at Rangadum Peddapalli. Biggest floating solar power plant at Telangana. It is being developed by NTPC. There are UPSC is again emphasizing on renewable energy. That can be seen by 2020 question. India has immense potential of solar energy, though there are regional variations in its level of development. Elaborate. Again, in prelim there was a question related to domestic content requirement, that is was also related to solar energy production. So whatever in news item comes regarding renewable energy, you must consciously and more elaborately see that news. Then moving further, there is a news title: no proposal to release the caste data, stated by Ministry of Home Affairs. We can relate this point to Indian society GS1, especially caste based, GS2 social justice. You must be aware that government had conducted socio-economic caste census in 2011. Socio-economic caste census 2011. From prelim point of view, you must be aware which ministry conducted it. In rural area, Ministry of Rural Development was responsible for it, and in urban area, Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation. That ministry is renamed now to Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, but at that time its name was Ministry of Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation. Logistic and technical support for that census was provided by Registrar General of Census. As 2021 is a year of census, such a kind of happenings, such as what exactly Registrar General of Census does or other census related data, census related history is important from this year's prelim point of view. Then in Indian economy section, LIC owned IDBI Bank exists PCA framework is the news. RBI removed IDBI Bank from PCA, that is prompt corrective action. From prelim point of view as well as in mains also, you should be aware of what exactly is a prompt corrective action. You must be aware, if you are following current affairs, that Indian banks are facing non-performing asset problem, NPA issue. So RBI in 2002 introduced PCA framework for early detection of such NPA problem which will happen in future. What RBI do, that RBI has set certain metrics to evaluate performance of public sector banks. The metrics are capital to risk weighted ratio, one. Then second, return on asset, tier 1 leverage ratio, and net NPA, non-performing asset. So this prompt corrective action is important from prelim point of view. I again repeat, what are the metrics: capital to risk weighted ratio, net NPA, return on asset, and tier 1 leverage ratio. One significant bit from prelim point of view is that this framework, prompt corrective action, is applicable only to commercial bank and not to cooperative banks and NBFC. If you have seen news, then there is another framework which RBI has introduced related to urban cooperative banks. So that framework is separate than prompt corrective action. Moving further, to Indian Express, there is one article on editorial page which is really important from our GS3 agriculture related syllabus point of view. The article is "The push small farmers need. Farmer producer organization could be a solution to agrarian distress if they are helped to assess credit and markets." The Article is written by eminent authority C. Rangarajan and S. Mahendra Dev. So, and we get various important data and analysis from this article, which we can directly quote in a mains. One important significant bit which article state is that average land holding of Indian farmer is 1.06 hectare, which is very small. So Indian agriculture is dominated by small and marginal farmers. From where this 1.06 hectare data came? So that data came from agriculture census of 2015 and 16. Article is basically about promotion of farmer producer organization. As our majority of farmers are small and marginal, they cannot generate economy of scale on their own. For economy of scale, we need a farmer producer organization. Since 2011, government by various way is promoting farmer producer organization. You must be aware that FPOs are promoted under Small Farmers Agribusiness Consortium, under NABARD, under state government initiative, etc. In budget 2018-19, government gave 5-year tax exemption to those who are setting FPOs. 5-year tax exemption in 2018-19 budget. Then in 2019-20 budget, government talked about setting up 10,000 more FPOs in the next 5 years. Government talked about setting up more than 10,000 FPOs in the next 5 years. Committee set up for doubling of farmer income, that is Ashok Dalwai committee recommended government should set up at least 30,000 FPOs, but the article C. Rangarajan and other author state that India need more than 1 lakh FPOs for its need. The C. Rangarajan and author further state that if we look at the current FPOs performance, we see a mixed results. He says that various estimates shows that 30% of these are operating viably and 20% struggling to survive. Means 30% of these are operating viably and 20% are struggling to survive. Means 50% are not performing up to the mark. He further give one important example how FPOs can transform lives of common people. We need very specific examples in the mains to not make your answer general and stand out from the others. So there one specific example is there in the article which states that tribal women in a Pali district of Rajasthan formed a producer company and they are getting higher prices for their custard apples. So tribal women in Pali district of Rajasthan, producer company set up and getting higher prices for their custard apples. Then there is another significant study which is mentioned in the article is Devesh Roy and his co-authors at International Food Policy Research Institute have done comparative study of Maharashtra and Bihar regarding their performance of farmer producer organizations. He stated that in Maharashtra, farmer producer organization, that is some farmer producer organizations are organically evolved. What do you mean by organically evolved? Farmers themselves have taken initiative to form that farmer producer organization. In case of Bihar, almost all FPOs are promoted by someone. Promoted FPOs are there in Bihar. He says that there is a drastic difference in their performance, that organically evolved FPOs are performing well. Such FPOs are generating more income to the farmers, and promoted FPOs are not that up to mark. So that thing is to be kept in mind. Moving further, another news is Cabinet paves way for raising FDI limit in insurance sector to 74%. If you have followed the budget of this year, government have stated, especially finance minister has stated while presenting budget, that current 49% FDI limit in insurance sector will be raised to 74%. So now cabinet have given approval for that. For that, government have done amendment to Insurance Act 1938. One significant important point from this news is that insurance penetration currently stands at just 3.7% of GDP in the country. Insurance penetration currently stands at just 3.7% of GDP in the country. In Indian Express, there is another important article in explained session, Young India's first concern is a lack of job. That will be discussed in today's newspaper simplified. Moving further into a regional paper, in Maharashtra Times, there is news related to AICTE. What AICTE is doing is that it is giving approval to only those courses that are in high demand currently, means like in artificial intelligence, or those courses which will be beneficial for industry 4.0. So we have to look at what exactly AICTE is. Full form is All India Council of Technical Education. It was set up in November 1945, that is pre-independent body, as a national level apex advisory body to conduct a survey on the facilities available for technical education. In 1987, by AICTE Act 1987, it became a statutory body. So though initially it was not statutory, it is currently statutory by 1987 Act. By looking at this news from the mains point of view, how can we analyze is that you must be aware one term which is used to describe Indian higher education system, that is twin culture. Originally twin culture was a term that was given by C.P. Snow. What twin culture means? Our higher education have various compartments, mean humanities is divorced from technical education, medical education is divorced from humanity. So in present world where problems are multidimensional, where solutions are need multidimensional, such kind of compartmentalization is not needed. So this kind of moves by AICTE will be counterproductive in that respect. Moving further, there is news related to COD. COD will be first time conducted at national head level, that is summit. When any summit or any meeting at international level is done at a national head level, that is prime minister or president, then that kind of diplomacy is called summit diplomacy. Before that, with respect to COD, foreign minister used to meet. Where we can trace the history of summit diplomacy is that in the 19th century, after Vienna Congress or Vienna Congress of 1815, there was started of summit diplomacy. COD, you must be aware that it is a grouping of 4 members: America, India, Australia and Japan. In 2020, UPSC asked question that COD is transforming itself into a trade bloc from a military alliance. So it is important. In also 2003, what has been the nature of track 2 diplomacy? Such kind of question are being asked by UPSC. Whose initial idea was that of COD? That is in 2007, Shinzo Abe first mooted the idea of COD. Then in today's mint, there is news that New Delhi bids for integrated energy grid in South Asia. New Delhi bids for integrated energy grid in South Asia. We can relate this to GS2 syllabus of bilateral regional global groupings agreement involving India or affecting India's interest, and also in GS3, as we previously discussed, renewable energy is important component. The argument in this news is put forth by Harshavardhan Shringala, that is our foreign secretary. What he says that what China is currently doing is that it is China is putting their money in a various infrastructure, especially renewable energy related projects in various other countries. What Shringala is trying to say is that we must set South Asian Regional Power Corporation, which will counter China's move, and it will promote regional cooperation in electricity sector. This will include Greater Mekong sub-region, Southern African Power Pool, Southeast Europe, Gulf Coast countries, etc. Moving further, in today's Times of India, there is one article written by one diplomat of Japan. That is, we can relate it to GS3 news of disaster and disaster management. What it states that since the tsunami, India and Japan are strengthening ties in disaster risk reduction and building resilient infrastructure. For disaster management, now our government is not relying only on domestic efforts, it is doing various international cooperation. In 2020, there was a question, discuss the recent measure initiated in the disaster management by Government of India, departing from the earlier reactive approach. earlier approach related to disaster management of government of India was reactive, means after disaster happened, government was responding. Such kind of international cooperation or international involvement is example of proactive approach of government of India. So that is one angle of that question that was asked. In 2011, after Great East Japan earthquake, India supported Japan in various ways. By especially NDRF was involved in various rescue operation in various other help. Moving further, in today's Lok Satta, there is a news item related to Srinivas Ramanujan. We can relate this to GS3 economy section as well as in science section. Srinivas Ramanujan is very celebrated as 22nd December is celebrated as National Mathematics Day on his birthday. Then there is also mention of Mahalanobis. You must be aware that Mahalanobis is called architect of Indian planning. He was instrumental in establishing Indian Statistical Society. He also started a journal named Sankhya, which is today also a very eminent journal in statistics point of view. So that was from today's discussion. Thank you.